Let me ask you a question. Have you ever gone on a date? You're like, this is it. This is it. And then 3 months later, you're like, what the hell was I thinking? Maybe it's just me. I don't know. But here's the thing. I've done a lot of thinking. I've done a lot of research. I'm a nerd sometimes. But the good thing is, because I'm a nerd, I'm here to help you. I've really put a lot of thought into modern dating and what I think the biggest challenges are for people, and I have solutions that I want to provide for all of you. But I need to explain first how all of this connects, because there's a few different pieces here that are all playing into this. So the first thing that I want to point out here is that I think the rise of dating apps and social media have contributed to the challenges in the modern dating world. Even if you're not necessarily on them, I'm going to explain why this has had a major impact with the dating world. So there was a study where they asked people, where did you meet your date? Online dating, 45%. Through a friend, 33%, concerts and festivals, 32%, and through social media, 27%. So if you were to combine online dating and social media, we're getting about 71 to 72% of people are meeting their dates through these apps. So one, what does this lead into? Well, there's the paradox of choice. The first thing is that this gives people the illusion that they have so many options available to them. Never before in history have we had this many options at our fingertips. You couldn't just download an app and just swipe left, right, and you just have dozens, if not hundreds of matches, right? Especially for women, so many matches available to you. And on social media, you're being presented with all of these different people, even if they're not necessarily matches. These are people that you're seeing on social media consistently thinking, well, they're at least a DM away, and it makes you feel like these are all potential matches, even though they're not necessarily potential matches or even good matches for you. But it creates this paradox. So why is this paradox even a problem for us? Well, first is that they've done several studies where if you give someone maybe 6 options, typically they'll pick the best option and they'll feel satisfied with their option. But the more options you provide to someone, so let's say you give them 50 options, what happens is that 1, they're less likely to pick the best option from those 50, and 2, they're less likely to feel satisfied from the options that they pick, and they may have self-doubt and second guess themselves. So this unlimited amount of options, not only are we overwhelmed to the point where you might even get paralysis of analysis and never even make a decision. And 2, when you are making a decision, you're wondering, well, was this the best decision? There were so many other options I could have gone on dates with. So you're almost like 1 foot in, 1 foot out when it comes to the dating market. And this can start to create some real problems. The second thing about social media and dating apps is it creates unrealistic expectations. And so what we're seeing constantly pushed to us is the best of the best. People are posting their highlight reels, they're posting the best possible photos of themselves on social media. You're seeing the best of the best, and you're constantly comparing this not only to other people online, but to the people you're dating in the real world who just can't simply live up to this because they're living up to an illusion, a fake version of someone. We're constantly bombarded by women online posting all these trips, vacations, look at the diamond ring, look at the bags, the gifts that my man is gifting to me. And then we're also being bombarded by the amount of beauty and youth from all these women. They're getting these surgeries, they have filters, they have the best makeup products now, and men are thinking this is a realistic expectation of women when it isn't. And so if we're constantly comparing to this and thinking we have this paradox of choice, now you can start to see how these two combinations start to create a bad mixture in the dating market. I want to relate this all back to evolutionary psychology. So there is a book by David Buss called The Evolution of Desire. He's an evolutionary psychologist and he does a lot of research in this, and he's found that women have this thing called hypergamy. And so hypergamy is that women typically tend to date horizontally and up. In other words, they tend to prefer men who have as much status and power as they do, if not more, preferably. Where men typically date beauty and youth, I think that social media and dating apps are primed to showcase these traits, which gets into my next point, which is there's a mismatch between short-term and long-term dating strategies. So going back to the book, evolutionary-wise, a woman, the most important thing is she needs to get pregnant and she needs to be able to raise that child. However, these do not need to be the same people. And so what we're looking at here is short-term and long-term mating strategies. And I think that dating profiles and even social media, they push people in the direction of wanting to optimize for short-term dating strategies. And I watched this interview the other day with Sadia Khan, and I think that she explained this concept so well, and I want to put in a clip from that interview right here.
And the ones that actually have the best and purest intentions, they can't even utilize it for the right reason. So it gets difficult for them, for the people who are actually going in with the right intentions, because they learn very quickly, in order to stand out and even get a date, you have to cater to the wrong intentions. If you're a woman that wants to actually get marriage from it, but you're realizing you're getting no matches, she'll end up starting to show more skin and therefore attract men who are looking for her looks. If you're a man who can't get any matches, he learns, let me just post my watch, or let me just show my car, and then I'll get more matches. So by design, we end up pushing them towards intrinsic values.
Now what I'm seeing is a lot of people are going on these dates with people who have high potential for short-term mating strategies, but they don't have these long-term characteristics that we'd want to have in long-term mating strategies. And so it's almost like people find someone who's, short-term, and they want to shake them to be long-term. Like, why can't you have these characteristics that I want? I might want a woman who is loyal and nurturing, but then I'm constantly pursuing women who are promoting sex and are youthful, because that is the short-term mating strategy in me being turned on, right? They're pushing that button and I'm being driven by that, which leads me into my next point, which is we think we know what we want, but we actually want something different. There was this laundry detergent company and they wanted to increase their sales. So they did a survey and asked people, what do you care most about when it comes to your laundry detergent? And as most of you would expect, they said, well, I want it to clean it. So they optimized for that and they started doing studies and they promoted in their advertising, this cleans very well. But they noticed that their sales didn't go up as much as they would have hoped. So they put a camera in a laundry room and they watched people as they cleaned their clothes. And they noticed that the majority of people smelled their clothes when they took it out. And so they realized that people cared more about the scent of the clothes and how clean did they smell. What people said they want versus what they responded to was different. And so the same thing is in the dating market. You say you want a kind, nurturing, loyal person, but what you respond to is status, youth, sexiness, height. Now, it's not to say that you can't want these traits. Of course, everyone wants someone who's physically attractive. In fact, this is the number one trait amongst short-term and long-term mating strategies is physical attractiveness, but you have to rank how important is that in your overall strategy in terms of what you want. And so this is where we can start to bring everything together. What's happening here? You're having unlimited options. You go on these online dating apps, you go on social media, and you're being bombarded with not only options, but the best of the best. And you're comparing this to other people that you're dating. And you're always having one foot in, one foot out because you think you always have unlimited options. Even if you're in a long-term relationship, you're constantly being bombarded on social media about how many other beautiful women there are, how many other men out there are taking their wives on these vacations. They might even be sliding into your DMs and you're constantly having to face this pressure of like, did I make the best decision? Do I have the best option? This is that paradox of choice alongside that unrealistic expectations in the dating market. And then us not being aware of this short-term versus long-term mating strategy, we might be optimizing for these short-term strategies. And so we see someone online that's super sexy and we just automatically think, God, I'd love to go on a date with them. But we're totally not thinking about whether or not they have these long-term traits that we really care about and would make someone worth having a relationship with. And so this is what causes burnout in the dating market. There's a lot of burnout because people are getting tired. They're wondering, I'm going on these dates, I can barely find people, I have to go through 50 dates before I find someone I even kind of like, and then when I like them, they end up being an asshole because you're optimizing for the wrong traits. This is where I want to jump into the solutions. What can we do to solve for all of this? Because I know there's a lot of burnout, I know there's a lot of struggle, I know that there are a lot of people who are just tired of the dating market. So what can we do to solve for this? Well, the first is I would recommend writing down a list of traits that you want in a person. And you want to have two lists. One, what are all the traits that I want in a person, all the characteristics, and you want to rank this in order. What's most important to least important. I don't want someone who's very religious. I want someone who is intelligent. I want someone who is more laid back. I don't want someone who is a partier. I want someone who doesn't drink a lot or doesn't do drugs. These are a few of the characteristics I look for, and so I'm very clearly able to place people in buckets based on that. I also have a list of non-negotiables, and so people should have a list of non-negotiables because you know quickly when you want to walk away from a relationship. And the reason we do this is because we'll end up wasting less time with people that we shouldn't be with. So when I go on a date with someone and I feel this spark, but then I go home and I notice, oh my God, they don't have most of these traits. Now I realize that short-term mating strategy is being pushed, that button is being pushed in me without me realizing it. And I might have gone on a date and ended up in a relationship with this person only to realize, oh my God, they don't even have most of the long-term traits that I want. And I could have avoided all of this wasted time with them. And the same thing could be the opposite. You could go on a date with someone and go, I think it went well, but I don't know if I'd go on a second date. And then you look at your traits and you realize, oh my God, they have the majority of the traits that I want. Maybe I should give it a second chance. So this is really important in terms of not wasting time. The second thing that I think is important here is to stick to the process. How many people are getting burnout because they're starting and stopping and starting and stopping, and you never really stick to the process, right? If you're doing online dating, what I'd recommend is FaceTime them, call them. I know it might be awkward, but what if you go on a date with them and it sucks and it's even more awkward and you wasted all that time? So pick up the phone, call them, see if their personality even matches, because that's a lot of time that you could avoid wasting going on a date with them. Because a lot of people, we're not optimizing for that. You're going on these dates and you're just thinking, oh my God, they were so handsome or so beautiful and they were sexy and they had this money and this car, and it's like, great. These are great traits, but what about all these other traits that are really important for long-term relationships? Think about the perfect person that you would want, but it would take you 100 dates to find them. I would hope, and I would think most people would say, yeah, I would do that. But the reality is then you need to go through those 100 dates as fast as possible. Start getting out there, start going on dates so you can find them as quickly as possible. 3 is optimize for self-improvement, right? Self-improvement is extremely important. You know, there's this quote that I read that said, stop shopping for the perfect partner and become the perfect partner, right? If you become the perfect partner, like attracts like. You will attract who you are, not what you want. And so start becoming the best version of yourself and you're going to attract like-minded people. If I increase the value in myself, then other people are going to see that value and then they'll be more attracted to me and my pool of options will expand. So focus on yourself first and foremost before you start criticizing people for not having the things that you want them to have. Focus on yourself first. And then the last thing that I want to mention here is just embrace the patience and perseverance, right? Like I mentioned, it's going to take time. If you have to go through 100 dates, then just start getting out there and going on the dates. But understand that it's part of the process and don't get discouraged. Just understand that every bad day is one step closer to a good day or one step closer to finding the person that you actually want. Men, we're going to deal with a lot of rejection. That's just part of the game. Women, you're going to have to deal with a lot of weirdos and you're going to get a lot of DMs and messages from people and you're going to feel overwhelmed at times. But you're going to have to do a lot more filtering. Men, we're going to have to deal with a lot more rejection. That's just part of the game. But I promise you, if you can stick to the process, if you do this for years on end, there's no way you're not going to find someone. And so the longer you waste time with the wrong person, the longer you're pushing off being with the right person. And so I really think that the best thing you can do is just get out there, start going on dates, and start making sure that you're optimizing for, yes, short-term is important, but long-term mating strategies. What are the qualities you want with someone who would be long-term? Remember, if you're in this rut, if you're spinning your wheels in the dating market, it's probably because you're doing something wrong and you're stuck in a mentality that isn't the best for you, and you're going to keep attracting people who might not be the best for you or at least what you want. And so we have to get out of that and we have to recognize, okay, maybe I need to optimize for different traits. Maybe I need to start trying to date people who I haven't normally dated in the past because I never gave them a chance because I just immediately said no to them because they didn't have these short-term traits that I desired more. But then you end up in unhappy relationships. And so if you want a long-term relationship, I really think that optimizing for these long-term strategies, knowing what you want, having perseverance, understanding that you need to have patience, and that eventually, given enough time, you will find someone. So I hope this video was informative to a lot of you. Let me know if there's anything that maybe I missed as it comes to the dating market, and I'll see you in the next video.